At the top of the show, we told you what the Minnesota National Guard told us, that Governor Walz was demoted to Sergeant Master, and he does not have the right to use the title Command Sergeant Major, which he's used on his official website for most of his career. That is the latest in a series of very troubling revelations about Governor Walz and his military career and his willingness to go fight overseas in combat when the time came, when he was supposed to lead his men as the Command Sergeant Master. So I want to bring in someone who understands this culture, understands this community very well, from his intelligence work to his oversight work to his work at the State Department. He's one of our favorite patriots. He's also the national spokesman for AMAC, and today just happens to be AMAC Wednesday here at Just the News. So it is the right time to bring in our good friend, Bobby Charles. Bobby, great to have you back on the show.
John, I love being on your show. So, and what an incredible story you just broke.
Well, thank you. Yes, Stephen Richards did some great work. And it was just old-fashioned. You just call them up and say, hey, listen, there's this dispute out here. What's the truth? And the National Guard gave us the truth. It was kind of strange. You now have a man who wants to be vice president, and he has been using a title he hasn't been entitled to use for a long time. How will the public process this information?
Well, John, I upon looking at your story, and at just as broken, obviously, but I began to look closer at this. And so, a sergeant major is an E9. A command sergeant major is a title that really attaches to people who do things. So by incredible coincidence, or perhaps not, J.D. Vance actually was a command sergeant major in Iraq. He deployed in combat, was a real guy out there on the front lines every day. This guy, Tim Walz, now wanting to be vice president for, I guess if Harris makes it Harris, is sort of the antithesis, the opposite. He not only never made it to E9, he didn't deploy to combat. The farthest he ever got away from home was a kind of a luxury quarters in Italy. This is a guy that when his unit was called up, and the Army tends to call units up. I was Navy intelligence, that we do a lot of things in 1s and 2s and 5s and 10s and 6s. But they call up large units. They called up his unit to go to Afghanistan, and he backed out. He literally quit the service because he didn't want to go to Afghanistan. So this is the guy you want to be second in line to Commander-in-Chief of the United States military? And then you look back at the rest of this guy's record, John. I mean, it's pathetic. He's promoted voting for illegals by allowing all illegals to get driver's licenses and a driver's license to be used as an identity form in voting in Minnesota. So that's literally election integrity on its head, or promoting the opposite of election integrity. This is a guy who did nothing in 2020, was all Black Lives Matter all the time, at a time when most of the state, including a lot of the minority communities, were saying, please stabilize, please bring in law enforcement, please bring in the National Guard, do something to stabilize our world. And then, he has a track record that is really almost utterly anti-American, John. So, I'll be honest with you. I feel that Republicans, although they should take nothing for granted, not now, ever, never, they at this end, we got to get voters to turn out, and we've got to have them understand this is existential, to overuse a word that really does apply. But the reality is here, you've got a situation in which they could have picked Mark Kelly, an astronaut. They could have picked, a couple of other options. They could have picked, the governor of Pennsylvania, but the back story is that they're not picking him because he's Jewish. I mean, this is a party honestly, John, this is a party in complete disillusion, disarray, as far as I can see.
Yeah, and one might want to add denial and division too. It's just so remarkable to see. We had another story yesterday that I think is also very important, because most Americans don't know this, right? We go about our lives, we hear about the abortion debate, but we don't know the details of it unless you've gone through an abortion yourself. But there are instances all across this country where an abortion fails in a late second or third trimester, and the baby is born. And Minnesota was the only state that I know of that actually made these reports public. How many times was a baby born live, and what happened to that baby? So on Governor Walz's watch between 2019 and 2023, 8 babies, 8 infants were born alive in botched abortions. And all 8, according to the reports that the Minnesota state government gave to us, all 8 were left on the table without any life-saving care to die. Now, the law in Minnesota says they were supposed to administer life-saving care, at least the law for most of the time that Governor Walz was in. That did not happen. His administration didn't pursue any medical providers for it. And then they went around in 2023 and they changed the law saying you don't have to provide life-saving care anymore if a baby is born alive. Most Americans don't know that level of detail, but these are 8 reports. They're from the state government of Minnesota. How does this issue on sort of the abortion extremism of the left potentially surface in the campaign?
Well, this is a really important distinction. It's like the distinction between illegal aliens and legal immigrants, okay? Late-term abortion and allowing a child to die after born is fundamentally different from what happens in the first weeks after conception. And I understand there are big differences on this topic. But at the end of the day, it's new to me to hear what you just said, John, and it's unconscionable. How can anybody of a good heart react other than to say that's just unconscionable? And of course, what it really goes to is a much bigger issue, and that is that this individual, Tim Walz, is all about deceit, deception, and in my view, a whole collection of unconscionable acts. The notion that you really don't respect rule of law enough forget rule of law. How about rule of natural law? How about respect for life, not to save those children? But it goes beyond that. This is a guy who was arrested for going 100 miles an hour dead drunk and then got himself worked down to a reckless charge. You want to talk about someone who's got real criminal acts behind them versus a fake set of criminal acts alleged. And the bigger part here, John, is that we have very important issues that lie ahead of us in national security as well as moral thinking. And I'm always disgusted here in the state of Maine. We have a guy named Jared Golden who voted against the bill to save kids born alive who are when an abortion doesn't work and they're born alive. He voted against that. So, we're in a state right now, the country is, where you either choose up or you choose down. You choose morally right or you choose, I really don't care, ends justify the means, I'll break the law, I'll disgrace the Supreme Court, I'll do whatever it takes to win. I'd like to believe that most conservatives are on the side of constitutional government, and unfortunately Tim Walz and Harris are on the other side.
Yeah, and it's funny, I think these revelations are likely to flip the extremism argument. There was an incredible data point that was put out today, the annual number of abortions. And remember what the Democrats have told us. Oh, my God, since Roe v. Wade was turned over, women are never going to be able to get abortion kids. It's all over. Abortions went up in the last 2 years since Roe v. Wade. Another gaslight that has been put out. But it's really remarkable how often we're being lied to in the media, carrying that water until the stats come out and tell you otherwise. I want your thought on just the media's complicity in sort of this. I mean, there's been a dishonest coverage of Kamala Harris in the first few weeks, or not demanding any press conferences. I'd love to get your take on the traditional media, the one we used to rely on, but probably don't rely on as much anymore.
Well, I think the mainstream, what we'll call the mainstream media, which is a kind of a blotch in the middle of reporting that I guess to put it differently, the mainstream media in this instance are creating the narrative. They've written up Harris's parents as sort of nuclear scientists, or they solved cancer, and they're creating narratives, right? So we have it is incumbent upon us as voters to say to ourselves, look, you always had to be questionable about what you read. You had to question what you read, but now you really have to question what you read, because a lot of it isn't just based partially on truth. It is utterly false. It is utterly not true. So bottom line is, I think what we have to do thoughtfully, John, what we have to do is realize that this is really an election that isn't just about right and left, or conservative and leftist or liberal. This is about truth and untruth. This is about the Constitution versus not the Constitution. And I think at the end of the day, we have to simply accept that this is important enough to get engaged and to get our neighbors engaged. And I don't know AMAC is involved every day in trying to get people out to vote for what is right in their own hearts. And a lot of us are pretty diehard patriots. We believe in this country. We believe in those who went before us. We believe that the principles matter and that truth matters. And what you're seeing, the mainstream media on all of these issues are creating a kind of an alternate universe and asking you to subscribe to the alternate universe. And that's just it's not what we do as Americans.
It is a frustrating time for Americans who are in search of the truth. But the way to get it now is you have to just read more. You have to watch more, just widen your horizon to get the the facts. And that's why what AMAC does with its incredible news feed, what Just the News is doing, what Real America's Voice is doing, is giving people the facts that they're often being denied in the public space. I want to turn to a very exciting thing. There is another boot camp for boomers coming up next month. I'm going to be there. I'm super excited. This is really invigorating. People are really excited about it. Tell us, for anyone who wants to go join a boot camp program, what they're going to get, because it's an amazing experience.
So I am excited too. I'm going to be there too, John. This is in Long Island, and the notion is it's based on the theme of turn New York red. And there's a real possibility that if truth really is on the ballot, and if reality really does matter, and New Yorkers recognize that their own economic future and the future of, frankly, the country is at risk, that New York could turn red. And so Lee Zeldin will be there, and a bunch of other people will be there. I think so what are you going to get? You get training on how to get active in your own community, in your own state, how to get out there and make a difference, not just sit on the sidelines and grouse, which we all love to do, but actually get out there front and center and begin to get into your community and understand what the resources are. And AMAC has has a huge toolbox of resources, basically for anything you want to do that reinforces civic duty, but in particular for election integrity. I mean, they also have a foundation for veterans. They have an entire branch dedicated to the solvency of Social Security. And again, I would just encourage people to sign up for this thing. The room will be limited. It's going to be in an incredible venue. There will be a lot of high profile. I'm going to kind of keep some of the names back, but high profile people there. And it's a huge opportunity to get involved at a time when it really matters. These last weeks of one of the most important elections in our country's history. One of the great things I love about it, and I attended the last one in Pennsylvania, was so amazing. People don't realize until they get here, there's a lot of things you can do to make a difference in the election. You don't have to run for office to make a difference. You can be an election observer. You can go help people vote and help them register. Lots of patriotic civic duty things that Americans probably didn't have the chance to do. AMAC makes that all possible. It's so invigorating, and that's a message I think more and more people want to hear. They want to get involved, and you're giving them an easy way to get in. So very, very exciting. You're absolutely right, John. And I would encourage people, go to amac.us, not just to get, fresh news feed and backdoors into all of your data, as well as my writing and lots of other people, but get in there and sign up for things that allow you to get training, allow you to get the kind of, not just the economic benefits that AARP provides, but much more than that, an opportunity to really contribute positively to your own community, to contribute positively to your own state. The stuff they provide you can't get anywhere else, and that's aside from the access to people who really are in positions of decision making. So, I encourage people, go to amac.us, sign up today. John, you are doing an incredible service to the country with your investigative reporting. AMAC tries every day to do its own service to the country by bringing millions of people to the table. Yeah, no, it's such a great organization, 2.1 million plus strong, all patriots. You're not joining a service. You're not just joining a discount agency. You're joining a community of patriots, and you're really in a neighborhood that's going to make you feel comfortable. You get all sorts of benefits, right? You'll get discounts on travel, hotel, restaurants, insurance. You'll get expert advice if you need it on Medicare insurance or other issues. Get great news, get a great monthly glossy magazine. I love it. It's a great read. A weekly podcast with the amazing Rebecca Weber. But that opportunity to work alongside other patriots to make your country better, boy, that is the biggest payoff of all. And just think about this. If you go to this next one, you're going to get to hang out with Bobby Charles in person. How cool is that? I'd pay to do that. That's pretty darn good. I think we might have a mutual admiration society going here, but I'm going to be serving. I'm going to be serving coffees. Yeah, exactly. So, well, it's pretty exciting. So, you set up a special offer for this month. I love this. If people go to amac.us/justnews, you're going to get a 1-year membership for $1. There's nothing, you can't even get a candy bar for $1 anymore. $1 for a whole year of AMAC membership. You've got nothing to lose. So try it for $1. It is a game changer. Once you're in, you're going to be addicted to the relationships and to all that you get from it. Go do that today. Say thank you, because AMAC makes this investigative reporting we do here at Just the News possible. They're one of our great partners and sponsors. So go do that today. Bobby, some parting thoughts.
I think our tickets are locked in. Who knows? Maybe the Democrats will change again. I don't think so. But we've got Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and now we got Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz. How does this shape out in the final 90 days of this election?
Great question. I mean, I wish I had that crystal ball that would tell us everything we want to know and make us feel better. I think you can't let up on the gas pedal. We are going to have to go out and knock on doors. Americans need to stay very vigorously engaged, no matter how imbalanced we think these tickets are. One really filled with patriots that had been put through hell and high water. In J.D. Vance's case, all the way back to early life. I mean, a guy that really understands the drug issue, who understands the military, who understands patriotism, who understands hard work and frankly, suffering and loss. And Donald Trump the same way, a guy that has been just shellacked in ways that are just so utterly unfair. No presidential candidate has ever been put through the kind of lawfare and hostility and really anti-constitutional behavior by his opponent, Biden and now Harris. On the flip side, you've got literally the most left-leaning senator on record in history, at least alive today, since they've been keeping those records, now joined by probably the furthest left-leaning and most untruthful Democrat governor in the country. So your choices could not be more clear. But don't think for a minute that there won't be a snow job, an attempt here to turn dark into light and light into dark. And I would just encourage everyone to get out there, pay attention, and do everything in your power to bring someone to the polls who cares about this country.
Yeah, that's so important. It's such an easy thing to do, and nobody wins a game sitting on the bench on the sidelines. So getting in the game is the way to make sure that you can win. And that's the opportunity that AMAC is giving everybody, particularly with this next boot camp for boomers in Long Island, one of my favorite places to go visit. Bobby, as always, we love having you on. We always get such precise analysis and great insight and context for what's going on in the world. And we're always grateful. I look forward to this conversation more than any other each week. So good to have you on. We'll do it again next week, I guess.
A real pleasure. Absolutely. And at that point, we'll have to see what Iran has done. That's another undiscussed topic that worries me, but we're on it.
Yeah, we just talked about that at the top of the show with Fred Flights. And I think there was some spin today that, maybe the Biden-Harris administration stopped an Iran tech. Iran is patient. It will do it when it wants. It doesn't work on anyone's calendar except its own. But you're right. That's something that puts the world at great risk. No doubt about it. And good point to make. All right, my friend. We'll do it again next week. Thanks so much, Bobby. And to all of our great friends at AMAC for making what we do possible here. We really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, John.